Ever scroll through those real estate listings, picturing yourself like finally being a homeowner, and then bam, you get hit with that price tag, and it's like, whoa, okay, maybe not. It's easy to feel like real estate investing, it's just for, you know, the people rolling in dough. But what if I told you there's a way to get started, even if you don't have a ton of cash saved up?
Today, we're diving into Cómo comenzar a invertir en bienes raíces peso. And this guide is all about making property ownership happen no matter how much you've got stashed away. I gotta say, it's a bold claim, but I'm definitely intrigued.
What I find fascinating about this guide is how it really focuses on your mindset, even more than the actual money parts. Like
Hmm?
the biggest roadblock to getting into real estate, it's not necessarily your income, it's actually how you think about and manage what you've got financially.
So it's less about like hitting the jackpot and more about, I don't know, maybe hitting the reset button on your relationship with money? Yeah, exactly. The guide is all about making a big shift. Instead of that whole save what's left after everything else thing, they want you to pay yourself first. Basically, deciding on a percentage of your income that goes straight to savings, like right off the top.
Okay, I've definitely heard that pay yourself first thing before. But honestly, it always seemed a bit, I don't know, vague. Like, how do you actually put that into practice?
Well, they recommend starting with 10% of what you earn. And the real key here, it's consistency. It's not so much about the actual number. It's more about really building that habit that you're prioritizing your financial future.
Okay, let me try to wrap my head around this. So let's say I manage to squirrel away that 10% every month. Arrow. How does that, which, let's be real, can feel like a pretty small amount sometimes, a Hera, how does that actually turn into a down payment on an actual property?
Well, that's where things get really, really interesting. This guide, it goes deep on creating like a whole system to make those savings really work for you.
All right, you got my attention. Lay it on me. What's the secret sauce?
They break it down into three main things, like the legs of a stool, to keep you financially stable. You got to treat your savings like they're untouchable, find ways to bring in some extra cash, and then really take a look at where your money's going.
I'm liking this stool analogy. Okay, so let's break down each leg one by one. Let's start with treating your savings as untouchable. What does that actually look like in real life?
So it's all about mentally separating that 10% you're saving from the rest of your spending money. It's almost like imagining it's not even yours to touch, it's
Yeah.
already earmarked for your future self, who's, by the way, well on their way to owning a place.
So it's about that mindset switch, right? Going from, okay, I'll save what's left over at the end of the month to, nope, this money has a job to do and I can't touch it no matter what.
You got it. And this guide really stresses that this mental shift, it's crucial. I mean, really crucial for building that discipline and, for resisting that urge to dip into your savings for every little thing.
Exactly. And when those unexpected expenses come up, well, that's where leg number two comes in. Okay, bring on leg number two.
It's all about making some extra cash, finding a side hustle or two that really clicks with you.
See, now, side hustles. I got to be honest, that phrase always makes me think of like those, those too good to be true business opportunities. We're spending all night, every night, trying to like sell stuff online.
Mm.
But this guide, they make it clear that side hustles don't have to be a bad thing.
Yeah, for sure. It's not about like quitting your job and becoming a completely different person. The key here, it's all about finding something that you can actually manage, something that works with your life and, what you're already good at.
So it's not about dreading that extra job. It's more like, okay, what do I actually enjoy doing?
Yeah.
And is there a way I could, I don't know, maybe make a little money from it?
Exactly. Like, let's say you're a photography whiz, you could like totally offer to do some portrait sessions on the weekends. Or maybe graphic design is your jam. There are tons of freelance gigs online, even something super simple like walking dogs or, pet sitting that can win some extra cash.
It's like looking at your hobbies and your skills through a different lens, right? Like, wait a minute, I could actually do this as a side thing.
And the best part, well, one of the best parts is that it's not just about the money. Side hustles, they can help you learn new stuff, meet new people. It can really open up different possibilities down the road.
Okay, I'm starting to see the light here. So we've got our 10% tucked away. We're maybe trying out a side hustle or two.
And then, of course, you've got the third leg of our stool,
Right.
which is optimizing that spending, taking a good hard look at where your money's going every month.
Okay, gotta admit, this is usually the part where I tune out a little. Like, I don't need someone telling me to give up my morning coffee. You know what I mean?
I feel you. And honestly, this guide isn't about deprivation at all. It's not about like never buying anything fun ever again. It's
Hmm.
more about being, mindful and making choices that you actually feel good about. They recommend really looking at your spending habits, seeing if there are any, like, money leaks you haven't noticed before.
Okay, so instead of ditching my daily coffee, it's more like, am I actually enjoying all these takeout meals, or have I just stopped, actually thinking about it?
Exactly, like asking yourself, do I really need that new gadget right this second? Or can I maybe wait a few months and see if I'm still thinking about it?
Okay.
Or, like, is there another grocery store I could try that maybe has better prices?
I think we forget how much those small, like almost invisible expenses can add up over time.
Yeah.
And speaking of adding up, the guide has this great example that really brings it all home.
Oh, yeah, I love this example.
It's about someone who makes $1,000 a month, which I think is super relatable because let's be real, that's a lot of people.
For sure, it really shows you that you don't have to be, making a ton of money to make this work.
So we're talking about someone who's making $1,000 a month, right? And they're like, okay, I'm going to do this. They commit to saving that 10%, which for them is $100. But then on top of that, they're also hustling, maybe doing some freelance work or walking dogs, whatever works. And they manage to bring in another $100 a month.
Exactly. So now they're up to saving $200 every single month, which I know it might not sound like a ton of money, but here's the thing. This guide, it breaks down exactly how that, what seems like a small amount, how it really adds up. In just 2 years, they've saved almost $5,000. And that's not even counting if they, invest that money and it grows even more.
Whoa, $5,000 in 2 years just from being consistent? That could be a pretty decent down payment, especially if you're smart about, what kind of place you're looking at. But honestly, I think what's even more impactful than the actual number is how your whole mindset changes along the way.
Oh, absolutely. This example, it's like the perfect example of that snowball effect in action. You start seeing those savings grow month after month, and it's like it just motivates you to keep going. It builds that habit, and it shows you that, you know what, you've got this.
That's like you're proving to yourself, like, hey, I can actually create the future that I want. It's not about waiting for some like magical thing to happen. It's about taking control.
And that's really what this guide is all about at its core. It's about giving you the tools and the confidence to realize that, hey, real estate investing, it's not some impossible dream. It's a real possibility as long as you've got, the right mindset and a plan to get you there.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into cómo comenzar a invertir and in bienes raíces pay eso, it really makes you think, like, what's one tiny change you could make today to get started on your own path to owning a place? Maybe it's putting aside just $10 this week or finally, dusting off that old hobby you've been thinking about turning into a side gig. Remember, the smallest actions, when you do them consistently, they can lead to some pretty incredible results. That's all for this deep dive. Thanks for listening.